Even though Bert seems to be going through the worst health crisis of his life right now, and is in fact recovering from surgery, since he confirmed it in this podcast that dropped yesterday, it seems that Tom only wants to separate himself and his public image from the walking train wreck that is Bert Kreischer, because Tom wants to be the next action movie star. That reminds me of someone. I really hope a slew of shocking allegations doesn't come out about this guy before he makes it big. Wouldn't that be awful?
Bert Kreischer is the worst person in comedy, and every other comedian hates him. That's what you'd be led to believe if you spent more than 5 minutes on YouTube. There are countless drama-inducing videos talking about how nobody likes Bert, how his life is falling apart, and his career is over. And the one thing that all of these videos have in common is that they know that the internet loves to hate, and that putting Bert Kreischer's name in the title will get clicks. I'm actually a comedian.
She puts a piece of tape 6 feet tall on the door frame so that when guys walk through her bedroom door from Tinder, she can tell whether or not they're lying about their height. Yeah, it was funny. No, it's smart, it's funny. And I said to her, I said, yeah, I do the same thing with women. When they come over, I put a scale under my couch cushion.
Who spent time in green rooms, and I know the dynamic that exists between comedians. I also happen to have worked for a lot of tech companies like Google and Microsoft, and I know that there's a lot of money to be made on the internet by fomenting tribalized hate. It's outrage bait. So let's take a look at why so many content creators are intent on stirring the pot, and how the way that they're trying to portray Bert as well as other comedians is disingenuous and honestly pretty slimy. I'm going to say this as a philosophy. When I started making these kinds of videos, I was very intent on trying to be positive. I want to uplift other comedians and maybe expose them to an audience that wouldn't have known about them otherwise. The idea of setting out with the goal of trashing somebody, to me, doesn't sit well as a comedian or really as a human being. I first started to notice this trend of hate videos, I think like around the fall of 23 with a podcast cringe video. And I think it was either about Tim Dillon or Jerry Seinfeld versus Joe Rogan. And I thought, oh, this is interesting. Like, this will be a hot take, but maybe a deserved one, or maybe one that, came from someplace. And I watched it and I, for the most part, enjoyed it. I figured it was going to be someone's own personal, sincere take on things. But then I started to see the exact same type of video over and over again, trying to pick apart and, tear apart these comedians' lives or pit them against each other, or, just instigate this drama on a very malicious seeming level. It didn't seem like a personal take anymore. It seemed like a very formulaic and insidious take. That's when I started to notice something else about many, not all, but a lot of these videos. And that's that the users were completely anonymous. They had some sort of BS channel name without their name anywhere. And most importantly, they never would show their faces. And I thought that's kind of spineless, to be making such dramatic accusations and not even stand behind your words with your own name or face. And I think there's two reasons for this. One, I think it's because they realize that what they're doing is devoid of morals, and they don't want the internet, or perhaps the comedians themselves, coming after them in some form. I don't know legally if there's anything that could be done, but they don't want to be subject to the same thing that they're doing to these comedians, which, the irony, the hypocrisy. Second, I think that more and more of these videos are leaning on AI, and I'm not convinced that the people doing the voiceovers necessarily wrote the scripts, or even that the people doing the voiceovers are human at all. So why are these people doing this? The simple answer is money. I have been doing comedy a long time. It is a passion of mine. Most of the time, that we are performing comedy, we are barely making enough money to cover the Uber there. Do I want to be making these YouTube videos? Is this my passion? No. But I know that I can grow an audience for comedy, which is my passion, and that perhaps I can make a tiny bit of money from these videos if you get enough views. I actually became eligible to monetize my channel last month, and barely, but I made $173. Have I seen any of that money yet? No, I haven't. But I'm hoping I do, because I really, really could use that money. But more and more of YouTube is full of recycled comments. It's comedians on podcasts making throwaway comments, and then videos being made commenting on the throwaway comments of those comedians, and then videos like this one commenting on the videos that are commenting on the throwaway comments of comedians. And it's a lot of slop out there right now, you know? So what videos cut through the noise? Well, it's not necessarily better videos. They're one, videos that get you to click in the first place, and two, videos that keep you emotionally or intellectually engaged. And guess what's way easier than making an intellectually engaging video? One that engages you with hate. It turns out hate is much easier than intellectualism, and it's also easier than love. Hate is easy and cheap. Making a video writing love or your appreciation for something is definitely way harder, but it can be done, and I would hope it should be done, would be done. It can be done, though. My most successful video I've made to date is a tribute to Greg Giraldo, and I made it with honest-to-God love for that comedian. And it struck a nerve with others because they loved Greg, and they had an appreciation for him and an emotional connection to him, and he died way too early. So there's a nostalgia factor and, a remembrance. And my point being, though, it was a positive video that kept people emotionally engaged. People obviously watched that video because of Greg, not me, but I'm still proud of that video because I made it with love and respect for another comedian, and it was a success. It is possible to lift each other up and be successful without having to step on each other's heads. I don't know how many of these content creators regularly hang out with comedians, but if their videos are any evidence of it, none of them know any comedians on a personal level. I feel like these videos are peak online parasocial relationships, where every comment someone makes, every facial gesture is being analyzed and parsed through to try to create something negative always between, two comedians or something that's happening in a comedian's life. Because again, they want to find the hate. And if the hate's not there, they're going to foment it. They're going to manufacture it. But all this analyzing is being done by people who don't know the people that they're commenting on any kind of a personal level, certainly not a celebrity comedian. How are you going to act like you have some sort of insight into the interactions of people who you've never met on a personal level, who are comedians on a podcast that's being recorded? They know it's being recorded, and they're often trying to make each other laugh or putting on a show. Have you ever watched a roast? You know that comedians are willingly going on the roast, knowing that they are going to be made fun of, and they are going to make fun of each other publicly. It's not like they're tricked into having their friends make fun of them.
Jeff, killer set. Congrats on the weight loss too, man. It must be nice to know that being fat wasn't what made you disgusting to look at. You really put the ick in Ozempic. It's... Jeff, you look like your pronouns are it, that. You look like something cancer catches. Are you pickled? I'm confused. The only time Jeff ever got a woman wet is when she helped roll him back into the ocean. I'm sorry. I love you.
We don't need to make a video about how Jeff Ross and Nikki Glaser are secretly feuding with each other. If these comedians actually hated each other, they wouldn't keep going on their podcasts and doing shows with them and hanging out outside of work, you'd think, right? And if they did hate each other, it's not something that you'd be able to ascertain by parsing through again, recorded medium that they're putting out to the public. Really, at the end of the day, it seems like all of these videos are basically just cash grabs, and they're really nothing more than high school gossipy clickbait. Do I think Bert Kreischer is the funniest comedian? No. Is he a bit much? Yes. Am I going to make a video essay about that, trying to make his life fall apart, try to ruin his relationships and his career? No. If I was going to do that, that would be somewhere between mentally ill and evil. People see somebody making a lot of money and they want to target him. They want to ride his coattails because they're petty and jealous. It's all about money. It is the same story over and over again. The same story over and over again, just like those negative podcast breakdowns. What do you think? Do you hate the hate videos? Do you love the hate videos? I am guilty of having watched them myself, but it didn't take long at all till I realized it was just a formula. That's all they were ever going to put out. They didn't have any real love or appreciation for comedy or podcasts. And honestly, to me, it's the same thing as like a bullshit YouTube, hot take from a quote unquote news anchor just trying to rile up one side because that's what makes them money. I was going to say it's just sad when I see that being done in the comedy world. Actually, it's much more sad when I'm seeing it being done in the news world. I would rather it stay in the comedy world and not affect our news world. Unfortunately, it's affecting both. If you want to follow me, you can do that at Eric Berry Comedy. Please comment, share, subscribe, do all of that jazz. I really appreciate you all, and I will see you next time.